I think many students of international migration have been introduced to the topic with the question, why do people migrate? And that's been perhaps the start of a classroom discussion or something like that. And it's the type of question that we associate with introductory courses and maybe with textbooks. But I'm trying to use it as an approach to explore some issues in migration theory and contemporary migration dynamics. So trying to take the step from the very basic level to something a little bit more on the research frontier. So instead of providing answers to that question, I try to reflect on how could we possibly answer such a difficult question? What are the possible avenues that we could attack it from? So how can we make something as complex as global migration simple enough to answer? We have to simplify in order to understand, but when we simplify, we could go very wrong, or we could do something smart. So in some of my own recent work, I've asked the question differently. I ask, how does migration arise? Because it's not just a matter of people deciding to move, it's about all the structure that make it possible or impossible to move, and that determine how and where people move and so on. And one of my main points is that we shouldn't look only at the observable migration outcomes. We should also look at the failed migration attempts, the unfulfilled migration desires. It makes a big difference if people don't move because they want to stay at home, or if they don't move because they're blocked from moving. So in that sense, what we see when we see people moving is just, in a sense, the tip of the iceberg of all the potential for migration, which is important to understand in its own right. I'm cautiously optimistic because I think it is a big step forward that governments are sitting down together and discussing migration as such. Because in the past, those types of discussions have mainly been confined to the issue of migration and development, which seems less controversial because everybody agrees that development is good. So it's a way to talk about migration and make it less dangerous as a topic. But now states are actually talking about migration. But one of the challenges or difficulties is that still they're pretending that we can reach agreement, that we can find some sort of consensus. And I think it is an area where states do have different interests, and there are different interests between states and migrants and different groups of people and stakeholders. And to some extent we need to recognize those different interests in order to find bargains and compromises and ways to come together across those differences, instead of just pretending that there is some kind of consensus that we can all gather around.